So this video is going to be a full in-depth offseason recap. This offseason was an interesting one, and it was a little bit of a roller coaster, and I'm going to have clips spread throughout this video as part of the recap, so hopefully you enjoy. Let's jump into it. The offseason started a little bit early this year. It basically started with the NBA trade deadline. In the days leading up to the trade deadline, the Blazers made some major moves, the first of which sent Robert Covington and Norman Powell to the Los Angeles Clippers for Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a second-round pick. It was reported that some rival GMs thought that this was really bad value for Portland, and me and my co-host Eric thought the same as well.
I'm pissed. Dude, I don't even know where to start with this.
This is not a trade you make 6 days before the deadline when no other trades have been made. There's still possibly a buyer's market out there where lots of these players could be gotten for a bidding war, and yeah.
Okay, so we get Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, and a second-round pick, Eric?
And Keon Johnson.
And Keon Johnson? Dude, like, how have you exhausted all options that a week before the trade deadline, you're like, yep, well, we have to take this crappy package?
As you can see, we were pretty frustrated, but Joe Cronin was not done. It had been rumored that CJ McCollum was going to get traded, and the favorite to land CJ McCollum in the days leading up to the deadline were the New Orleans Pelicans, and that is indeed where CJ McCollum would be heading. McCollum got traded along with Larry Nance Jr., who was a player that I also really liked, and Tony Snell, who was a player I didn't like. And the Blazers got back Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, both of whom they flipped, Didi Louzada, who's still here in Portland, but not somebody fans are enamored with, as well as the Pelicans' first-round pick. However, that first-round pick was iffy, as they already owed it to the Charlotte Hornets if it fell between picks 15 and 30. Portland would get New Orleans' pick if it fell between 5 and 14. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Lakers were struggling. The Pelicans would get their pick if it was between 1 and 10, and this will come into play later. Here were Joe Cronin's thoughts on the trade deadline. He said, quote, "We're looking at all different scenarios. Reset is a big word. We're too competitive to want to do that. So it depends on what you mean by reset." Cronin was asked if reset meant a long-term rebuild, and Cronin said, "No, I don't think we have the appetite to tear it all the way down. We have too many good players and too many ways to get better without taking too big of a step back." Joe Cronin touted the Blazers' flexibility, which got them a $20.8 million traded player exception in the CJ McCollum trade, but fans were tricked into thinking that the Blazers had $60 million of cap space, and we had to drop a video to dispel that myth. Cronin also hinted that he planned on balancing the roster. Jason Quick of The Athletic asked, "Joe, you said you wanted to balance the roster, but it still looks really weighted with the guards. Can you explain how to balance it?" Part of Cronin's response included this. He said, "This season, it's still unbalanced, but part of this is injuries and who will be coming back and whatnot. And our full intention, though, is what does next season's roster look like? And we feel like that one will be much more balanced." This set the table for the offseason, where fans had numerous debates about what players would be possible to get, what players the Blazers should go after, but the common consensus was Joe Cronin was going to balance out the roster. Previous GM Neil Olshey had a love for guards, especially undersized ones, and Blazer fans expected Joe Cronin to go in a different direction after the failures of the past couple of seasons. The Blazers tanked the rest of the season, pretty successfully I might say, and ended up with the 6th best odds in the draft lottery. However, there was also a lot of attention on the New Orleans Pelicans' push for the playoffs. CJ McCollum looked great in New Orleans, and the Pelicans started winning a serious amount of games. The Pelicans finished the regular season with the 9th best record in the Western Conference, meaning that if they could win 2 play-in games, then they would make the playoffs. The key part of that for the Blazers, of course, is that the Charlotte Hornets would get the Pelicans pick if they indeed played their way in. And that is exactly what the Pelicans did, meaning that instead of potentially having the 12th pick in the NBA draft, the Blazers would instead only get a 2025 Milwaukee first. Meanwhile, the Pelicans somehow managed to hang on to the 8th overall pick that they would get from the Los Angeles Lakers. Watching the Blazers lose a lottery pick right in front of our eyes because the New Orleans Pelicans played their way into the playoffs was one of the most frustrating things as a Blazer fan, and I made my voice heard about that. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Portland Trail Blazers funeral. The Blazers today lose the Pelicans pick, and our worst nightmare has come real. It's real. Eric, we lost the pick. This is probably as pissed off as I've ever been on stream before. Just incompetency leads to getting burnt. And this past trade deadline was pure incompetency, and it led to us getting burnt. Absolutely burnt. Eric, we traded CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, Robert Covington, and Larry Nance Jr. for Josh Hart, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and the 2025 Milwaukee first. The only asset that matters for Damian Lillard winning a championship in Portland is Josh Hart, a role player. And we traded a star and 3 role players. And the only meaningful asset we got back was one freaking role player. How the hell do you do that? You're gonna go into lottery day. New Orleans has the 8th pick. This dude was so incompetent of a negotiator that he couldn't use that 8th pick as a backup pick in case this crap happened. So this was a frustrating start. A poor trade deadline and the Blazers losing the Pelicans pick. However, there was still some hope. The Blazers pick could still end up being at the top of the draft if they got some lottery luck, and they still had some things they could do. Shortly after losing that pick, we had a stream over on our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live, where we're still streaming twice a week. You should definitely go subscribe if you haven't. On April 18th, my co-host Eric Brandt confirmed the first offseason move for the Portland Trail Blazers, and that was Jerami Grant is going to end up in a Blazer uniform. Here's what Eric had to say.
I learned some new information that makes me think that it is 100% luck. So I heard this from 2 completely separate people that gave different parts to a story that confirmed the other parts of the other people's story. And then I ran it by a third person that I trust who would usually tell me no if I'm on the wrong track on something. And I got the can't say wink wink type answer, right? And so, like I said, it's not going to shock anyone, but the details of it are pretty concrete. Okay, so it's almost a lock that we are getting Jerami Grant, and it's still kind of dependent on some things with the lottery and things like that. But apparently, Dame and Jerami Grant are already working out together. So they're already doing it. And Jerami Grant has done a complete 180. He wants to be in Portland next season. This is the only team he wants to be traded to. There's a couple of reasons why he can make that happen. He apparently has some sort of handshake agreement with Detroit that if he did want to get traded, that they would accommodate him as part of him choosing them over Denver or whatever. So he does feel like Detroit owes him at least a chance to be traded as long as the offer's relatively close between teams or whatever. And then the second thing is he is at the point where he's going to refuse or tell teams that he will not sign an extension if they trade for him, to leverage those teams into not wanting to give up much for him, which can mean that the Blazers, even though we got screwed out of the Pelicans pick, could find their way into still giving the best offer with the Milwaukee first and the Blazers 36th pick, which is close enough to 2 firsts. I know it's like a horrible first and an early second, not a first, but this is seeming like it's already a done deal. Dame's already out there talking about Grant as being a part of the team next year. Moving forward, it looks like we could get lucky enough to get it for the Milwaukee pick and some other kind of secondary stuff.
Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know if I fully believed Eric, but Eric seemed very confident in this information, so I rolled with it, including Jerami Grant in pretty much every offseason plan. Some Pistons fans didn't like that, and these comments are kind of funny to look back on now. So it would be interesting to see if Eric's information was indeed correct, and he basically broke a trade months before it was announced by your more mainstream insiders. Meanwhile, during the offseason, I started dropping daily content. I had never done anything close to that, and it was pretty successful. We were counting down the days until the draft lottery, which was May 17th. We had a live stream for that draft lottery, and the Blazers did not get lucky. They actually fell a spot in the draft to the 7th overall pick. At 8...
Pelicans. Yes! Let's go! Come on.
Please don't be Portland at 7. I'm taking my headphone out because you're slightly ahead. At 7.
No!
We got screwed. Yep, anyway, that's how it goes as a Blazer fan.
The Kings moved up.
That's how it goes as a Blazer fan.
Pacers are 6.
I knew it. Well, of course we don't get that.
The Pistons got screwed too. Oh man. Rockets, Magic, Thunder, and Kings.
Oh my god, bro.
We're gonna trade it.
Why do we have the worst luck? Can we just get one break, please? How hard, how hard is it for good things to happen to this freaking team? Can we ever have anything good happen on a stream? Ever?
Curse.
Do I gotta delete the channel for something good to happen? I don't understand, man. Not jumping up in the draft was definitely extremely disappointing. However, it did spark a debate between Shaedon Sharpe, Benedict Mathurin, and Dyson Daniels. Shaedon Sharpe was the high upside guy, Benedict Mathurin was definitely the best shooter of the bunch and maybe the most NBA ready, and Dyson Daniels was the best defender out of the bunch, as well as the best passer. You had 3 intriguing prospects with their own strengths and weaknesses, and it'd be interesting to see which one the Blazers ended up rolling with. But first, boom! Eric was right! Jerami Grant is a Portland Trailblazer. The Blazers were able to take the sting off of losing the Pelicans pick as they flipped the 2025 Milwaukee first they got instead for Jerami Grant. There were a couple other second-round picks involved, but the Blazers helped further justify the CJ McCollum to the New Orleans Pelicans trade by using that $20.8 million trade exception they got back, as well as the Milwaukee pick in order to absorb Jerami Grant's salary and make him a Trailblazer. It has happened. Jerami Grant is a Portland Trailblazer, and Joe Cronin did not get fleeced. Joe Cronin won a trade. Great job to Joe Cronin. Great job to Eric, who's not going to be with us, but Eric called this trade going down over a month ago at this point. And we talked about, after that, how Cronin would have a bunch of leverage, and it didn't make sense to give up more than a 2025 Milwaukee first and a couple smaller assets. That's exactly what Cronin gave up. Portland lost the Pelicans pick, and me and Eric ranted about that. We were very upset about that. But Joe Cronin turns the asset he got instead, which is a 2025 Milwaukee first, as well as a couple future seconds, and then trading down from 36 to 46 in the draft to get Jerami Grant. After trading both Norman Powell and Robert Covington, the Blazers at this point had addressed one of their starting forward spots, so now it was time to wait for the draft. Here is how the draft played out. All right, Portland's on the clock. Sharpe is here at 7, which means that if there's a contingent trade dependent on Sharpe being here at 7, Sharpe is here at 7. So we might hear about it after the pick?
So I think if Portland keeps this pick, it's obviously between Daniels and Sharpe.
Yeah.
Daniels fits better for what Portland's trying to accomplish right away. Sharpe's probably has the higher ceiling long term. It's probably pretty close if both of them hit their ceiling. But, yeah, I'm with the way this draft panned out, I am 100% on board with moving down with OKC to 12. I feel like we can get just as good of a player in Sohan or AJ Griffin or something at 12. as we could right here at 7 and pick up additional assets. Or if Toronto was one, if Daniels or Sharpe or one of the players contingent on an OG trade, I think I'm okay with that as long as we don't give up Hart to or Nas. Yeah, so if we, I don't know. I guess I'm fine either way, but I think the best thing would be to trade down right now, in my opinion.
I'm higher on Daniels than Eric is. I have Daniels as the second-rated player available right now on my big board, but Johnny Davis is number 1. I think Daniels makes more sense for Portland, so I think he is the best option on the board right now. But if you're swinging for upside, Sharpe is a good option as well for that, as a boomer bust type guy, swing for the fences. So Daniels or Sharpe if they're picking here. Sharpe if you like upside, Daniels if you want somebody that could start right away at the 3 and is a good point of attack defender. Portland still needs that, so Daniels would make some sense. Apparently, Portland has given Shaedon Sharpe a promise. Apparently, Damian Lillard wants Shaedon Sharpe. I always felt like that was a smokescreen, so we will see if they take him. I would say if they don't take Shaedon Sharpe, it's more likely that Portland keeps the pick. If they take Shaedon Sharpe, there's a chance that it ends up as being part of a trade in the next 5-10 minutes that we hear about.
Right
I
now.
feel like if they draft Sharpe and think they can play him year 1, they might start Josh Hart at the 3.
Yeah.
Or start Nas at the 3, and then Josh Hart plays backup 3, and then Sharpe's your guard. And
we have
Sharpe,
no idea if Sharpe's ready to play.
yeah,
right
I mean, Sharpe
away,
has Sharpe has an 8'7.5" standing reach. That's okay for a small forward, but I mean, yeah, who knows if he's ready to play right away. But the dude is talented. He's probably going to take a year or two. But that's the thing with the Jerami Grant trade, where you didn't give up much for Jerami Grant. You're in a better position to take a risk. So, I'm cool with it.
2022 NBA Draft. The Portland Trailblazers select Shaedon Sharpe.
There it is. There it is. Shaedon Sharpe. Who knows if he's staying in Portland? But I mean, this is what's funny is everybody's singing Cronin's praises, but this is such a Neil Olshey pick.
It's funny. Sometimes he kind of looks like Dame with a different haircut.
Maybe that's why Dame liked him, man.
He's like a long-lost twin brother.
So I'm okay with this, man. I think he has the highest upside on the board. He's a mystery guy. Sounds like the promise might have been true, and he canceled his workout with the Pelicans. So, I mean, this could absolutely be a trade coming up. So I don't want to, get too invested into thinking about him being a part of our franchise. Portland's on the clock here at 46. Who do you want?
My top 2 guys right now on my board, I would love either one. One of them is Jabari Walker, who would fill a major need for us as a forward, very good rebounder, can maybe make up for Jerami Grant's lack of rebounding. And also, I feel like his shooting is going to be better at the next level because he didn't have much spacing in Colorado. And then Ibu Baji is still on the board. If you're going to draft an international prospect, I'd also be fine with any number of Yannick Noza, Hugo Besson, Ishmael Kamagate. So, yeah, we got plenty of options here right now.
They're going to commercial. Screw them.
It's as long as they show a Taco Bell commercial in the next 30 seconds, we're good. Johnny Davis Taco Bell commercial, where are you? I could also see them going for a Dominic Barlow and just taking
I would like that.
The Barlow and Sharpe, you can't get much higher upside at this point.
All right, guys, I will announce the pick when it's up.
It said pick is in, and then it showed the Pistons, and then it had Gabriel Procida. I was like, wait a minute, he was already drafted. What the heck?
Your dog is popping off.
That is not my dog. My dog doesn't bark.
It sounds like that dog is excited for the Blazers pick.
Mm-hmm. I was hoping that whoever he picked has some dog in him.
Oh, it's a Domino's commercial. Maybe that's the next Taco Bell.
Stranger things going on here. Let's go.
I would go Dominic Barlow right here.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. All right, Denver Post reporter is saying we're picking for them.
At 46?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, my God. So, this isn't our pick?
I mean, I haven't seen
Is the reporter reputable?
Well, everyone in chat saying Woj confirmed it, but I have not gotten that tweet from... Just give me the tweet, even if it spoils who they pick.
Bro, I hate... Oh, God. That's annoying. Seriously?
2022 NBA Draft. The Detroit Pistons select Ismael Kougate from Paris.
I liked how Tatum said that.
Alright, well,
Dang,
no
man.
Kamagate
I want
for us.
Kamagate. Why can't we have Kamagate?
Would be, yeah, I mean, dude.
Another great pick for Denver. Jeez, man.
Annoyed. Well, we still have 57. There's still numerous.
Did Denver
guys.
have any other picks? Like, what are we getting?
Pass. Jody's padding her pockets.
Better not be that.
Jody needs more dough.
Well, there goes Kamagate. God,
There's going to be somebody interesting available at 57.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it just sucks. I told you I had a gut feeling Jabari Walker was going to be there at 46. Could still be there at 57. Okay, Portland's at 57. Dominique Barlow, please.
Don't trade this pick, please, is all I ask.
Dominic Barlow, please.
With the 57th pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Portland Trail Blazers select JABARI Walker.
Yeah, let's go.
University of Colorado.
There you go. I want a Barlow, man. Dang. All right, why do you like Jabari Walker so much?
Well, elite rebounder for his size, projects to be a solid defender, good size, didn't shoot the ball tremendously well this year, but as I said earlier, I think a lot of that was due to not really having the best team around him and just not getting the best, shot selection was a little questionable, but I think if you look at his first year in college, he had insane shooting splits. Went way down this year, but I think he could get back to that in the right situation. I think he's athletic. I think he just being slept on as a wing that can pretty much do everything, can handle the ball a little bit, maybe not the best off the dribble or passing, but maybe has a little bit of hidden capability in that regard. But perfect size for a small forward. I think he's fluid enough to stay in front of a lot of wings. I just think he should have gone in the late 20s, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like him. Second player on my board. I want Barlow just because of the upside. Would have been fun to swing on. But Jabari Walker, yeah, solid. Impressed me with Colorado. I think I had him late 30s. I'm happy with this pick. I said I was disappointed. I want Barlow, but I mean, value-wise, it's a really good value pick. With the draft finalized and me and Eric being pretty happy with us getting Shaedon Sharpe and Jabari Walker, now it was time to prep for free agency. I spent hours making this dope intro. I was really proud of that work. A lot of you guys in chat loved it. That was pretty cool. Honestly, one of the highlights of this offseason. But you know me, I like to spice things up with cool graphics and whatnot, but in the end, the free agency stream is us waiting to see what the Portland Trail Blazers will do. We waited 8 hours without any news. I even predicted that news would break right after we ended our live stream. Of course, I was right, as the Blazers signed Gary Payton II about 30 minutes after we signed off air, which meant we had to go live again. I told you guys that if we signed off of our 8-hour-long free agency live stream, that something was then, of course, going to happen. And of course, something then happened. And the Blazers have signed Gary Payton II to a 3-year, $28 million deal. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around this, and the first takeaway I have is there has to be something else, because I don't understand how Cronin watched the struggles the past couple of years with the lack of size and then just decided, you know what, instead of a 3-guard lineup, let's try a 4-guard lineup. I like Gary Payton II defensively. Offensively, he is hit or miss. Yeah, I don't understand what the plan is here, because you got Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart, Keon Johnson even, young prized acquisition in the Robert Covington, Norman Powell trade. You got Sharpe, and you got Nasir Little. These are all point guard, shooting guard, small forwards. And now you just add Gary Payton II into the mix. And, I mean, this just says to me that either Josh Hart is gone or Josh Hart is going to probably start at the small forward spot. Either Josh Hart is gone or he's playing small forward. Because the Blazers just went out and spent their full mid-level exception on a guard. When Otto Porter Jr. is out there, you got Derrick Jones Jr. out there. I mean, you got a couple of forward targets that could make a lot of sense for Portland. They do not have a backup 4 or a backup 5 right now. Actually, they don't even have their starting 5 right now, because who knows what's going on with Yusuf Nurkic. Who knows? He was supposed to sign at the start of free agency. That's what everybody expected, and it is about 10:58 p.m. So we are 8 hours into free agency. Yusuf Nurkic hasn't signed yet, which makes me think that the Blazers are up to something on the trade market, and they're going to include Josh Hart's salary, and they went out and signed Gary Payton II to replace Josh Hart's role, and I don't feel too good about that. Here's the problem when you bring in a Gary Payton II. Originally, you had Damon Ant is the starting guards, and then Hart is the third guard. Then at the small forward position, you had Nasir Little, you had Sharpe. By bringing in Gary Payton II, who has the same standing reach as Anthony Simons, and he's shorter than Anthony Simons, he's 6'2", you just brought in a guard. So you have to bump Josh Hart from his backup guard role, which is now Gary Payton II, I guess, and you're bumping Josh Hart up to the small forward position. You have Sharpe there as well, who's supposedly going to get playing time. So where does that leave Nasir Little? I think it potentially bumps him up to the backup power forward position. So you have Nasir Little, undersized for the power forward position. You have Josh Hart, undersized for the small forward position. You have Sharpe, adequately sized for the small forward position. And then you got 3 guards, none of whom is bigger than 6'3". So I'm expecting either a follow-up trade, which would make this make more sense, or I'm just baffled as to why Joe Cronin wanted to really try to be Neil Olshey. I mean, he made a Neil Olshey type pick, swinging for upside high regarded prospect. I love the Sharpe pick, but I think that was a very Neil Olshey pick. This is a Neil Olshey move. You got a 6'2" guard when you already have guards. You have guards on guards on guards. You know, you got a couple small forwards. We need a backup power forward and a backup center, and to resign Yusuf Nurkic. And the first move, other than resigning our starting shooting guard, is to sign a backup combo guard.
We use the term in a vacuum, to describe trades usually, but in this case, in a vacuum, we would think getting a good perimeter point of attack defender, someone who's really savvy at getting through screens like we talked about earlier, someone who's like a get in your face, can set the tone on defense type of guy. Very nice, right? Mm-hmm. So I like that. I know both Hart and Gary Payton can guard bigger players effectively. Just don't understand why we would give away a bunch of players to then sign more guards and draft a guard, and I don't know, it's not adding up to me. But I like Gary Payton as a player. Obviously, he went to Oregon State. I root for him as a person and stuff like that, but to give him that much money too, it's kind of scary. As you mentioned, he hasn't even played like really a full season with the team. I actually had him in training camp a few years ago and cut him. If he was so good, why would the Warriors have not initially brought him back last year? Yeah. And I know he had a key part in their championship run. And I I really respect his grind and commitment to be a good player and stuff like that. I don't know how we make this work without some sort of other move, obviously. So, and we haven't signed Nurkic yet, so.
I mean, maybe Cronin was being very literal when he said he wanted a team full of Josh Harts.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he meant that at point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. After Joe Cronin had talked about balancing the roster, he drafted a wing at number 7 and signed a guard with the mid-level exception. Me and Eric were frustrated with the inconsistency with what Cronin said around the trade deadline and then what he did in the offseason. And we also had some frustration about a lot of the fan base saying that the Blazers could never do anything with a small lineup, but them being okay with the Blazers running back a small lineup. Once I got past this and looked at things deeper, I was okay with the signing and dropped a video talking about how the Blazers bet on small ball again, but this year could be different. The day after free agency started, the Blazers re-signed Jusuf Nurkic and Drew Eubanks. The fact that it took so long to sign Jusuf Nurkic had worried me, and I thought that Joe Cronin might have something special brewing, but instead Nurkic returns on a $17 million a year contract. Anthony Simons returns on a $25 million a year contract. It seems like a good amount of the fan base thinks that's a little bit overpaid, but I don't have a problem with it. I do have a problem with Drew Eubanks potentially being the backup center. I would have felt better with him being the third string center, but up until this point, the Blazers haven't really addressed their backup big man depth. There was one major move left in the offseason, and Damian Lillard signed a 2-year contract extension. It's funny how people still don't take this guy for his word when he says he wants to remain in Portland and he wants to remain loyal. I don't know how many times the guy has to say it, but he backed up those words by signing a 2-year contract extension, which will pay him like $60 million a year between 2025 and 2027. That's a lot of money, but Dame deserves it. The salary cap will be much higher then. I'm happy that Dame re-signed. The final part of the offseason was Summer League. The Blazers looked like they were going to have a pretty good Summer League team. I was speculating that they had as good of a chance as any to win the Summer League championship. The format was kind of weird. Each team would play 4 games, then the top 2 teams would play in the Summer League championship, and after the first game, those dreams seemed doomed. I cared more about watching Shaedon Sharpe, the Blazers' 7th overall pick, who hadn't played in college. This was my first chance to watch him live, and in true Blazer fashion, Shaedon Sharpe got injured 6 minutes into his Summer League debut.
Oh,
Sharpe gets cuts off, spins back. Ooh, that was nice. See, that's the upside right there. Real nice spin back mid-range pull. I like that he kept his confidence, and he gets blown by Jaden Ivey. And he's hurt. Oh no, man. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Oh, God.
So
Shaedon Sharpe is out of the game.
They put Luka Garza in.
Bro, if Sharpe doesn't play the rest of this night, that is such a buzzkill, man.
Yeah.
That is okay. Instead, we get Luka Garza. It sucked because there was a lot of hype for that watch party stream, and it ended with a buzzkill. The Blazers lost that game, and it seemed like their championship dreams were dead as well. But here comes JABARI Walker, the 57th overall pick. JABARI Walker looked absolutely phenomenal in Summer League and helped cure some of the blues that Blazer fans were feeling after Sharpe's injury. Keon Johnson had a couple good games. He looked a little improved. And after something like a 50-team tie for first and second, the Blazers and their point differential got them into the Summer League Championship, where they would face the New York Knicks, who they had already beaten, and they would win the Summer League Championship. Trendon Watford would get Summer League Championship MVP, and this was a fun end to the Blazers offseason. Now, we're here, and we're waiting to see what's next. It looks like there aren't going to be any more major moves outside of maybe another training camp invite, which the Blazers have signed the past couple of days. Otherwise, this is your Portland Trail Blazers roster heading into 2022 and 2023. With that being said, that's a wrap for this offseason recap. Hopefully you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already as we continue the roller coaster ride that is being a Trailblazers fan. If it's going to be a roller coaster, we might as well ride it together. And with that said, I'm out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.